Kahala Yahal Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakadash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, peace, salutation, and blessings to the elect. Naturalnews.com, it says, U.S. first, most of the food recalls during the pandemic are actually foods being diverted to government storage bunkers for the rich and elite. The uber rich of the world have an escape plan in place for the upcoming food shortage apocalypse, and they aren't even spending their own time to prepare. Most of the food recalls, quote unquote, for salmonella, E. coli, and metal shavings found in products is actually just a way to divert storable foods to the freezers and basement pantries of the rich and elite, who are all planning well for the food shortage apocalypse. Even Bloomberg News has reported that many of the world's elite, including U.S. government officials, and this is a manufactured famine, okay? It's manufactured, and the Lord controls both sides, but He's using the elites, and He's cutting off the staff for bread, okay? Using the weather. It says, are securing underground bunkers for riding out a new world war, another pandemic, or a nuclear holocaust. The latest food recalls to fit this bill was a frozen pizza recalled by Home Run Inn Frozen Foods, saying they found over 13,000 pounds of frozen meat pizza product contaminated with extraneous materials, specifically metal. And guess who's getting ready for the next scam-demic right now? Yes, that's right. Bill and Melinda Gates can't fill their bunkers quick enough with frozen foods and clean water for the next pandemic. How many food recalls are fake? Okay. So it says no reports of injuries or adverse reactions due to consumers swallowing metal shavings and pizzas. Okay. We're going to the hoax. And we're going to jump down to this. It says water wars erupting across the world right now as the elite is planning ahead. If you don't think that the supply chain erosion, massive inflation, and food shortages aren't also planned, then you are naive. Take a close look at how everything is falling apart and why, and you will see that it is carefully manipulated. The elitists that are in charge of government, big ag, and big pharma, big agriculture are creating shortages in every arena, including food, clean water, fertilizer, fuel, money, and natural medicine. Okay. It says it's not just the water wars that have begun, but food wars and weapon wars too. Most of the money and weapons going to Ukraine have been diverted, stolen, rerouted to elitists and smugglers. The Biden administration coordinates all this corruption. Okay. So let's see. All right. So that's all for that one. Okay. We're going to jump right to the scriptures. This is going to be the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 2. It says, though they dig into hell, then shall mine hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. So this is the hell is going into the underground nuclear bunkers. You see, Esau Edom is building these underground bunkers, okay, to try to escape the nuclear destruction that's coming via World War III, which is the War of Armageddon in the Bible, okay? And the hell is going into the grave, man. Them digging down into the earth, okay? You see that? And though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. That's going into the space stations that they have up there. You see? And the space hotels that they're trying to create. Verse 3, and though they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, you got the mountain. That's synonymous for the Cheyenne, the mountain bases that they have. It says you got one being Cheyenne military base. I will search and take them out thence. And though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. That's going into the underground cities that they have. They also have luxury submarines. Okay. Verse 4, it says, and though they go into captivity before their enemies, thence will I command the sword, and it shall slay them, and I will set mine eyes upon them okay, for evil and not for good. And the Esau Edom is going to go into captivity before us, okay, the Israelites, you see. And the sword is going to be on him. He's going to pay, Revelation 13:9, okay, for what he's done. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, okay. So let's get this next article. BlackListedNews.com. Here's why 37% of U.S. farmers in the western half of the country are killing their own crops. It says food just doesn't magically show up at the grocery store if farmers and ranchers do not produce it. We do not eat. Okay. That says all over the globe, agricultural production is going to be below expectations in 2022. As a result, those of us that live in wealthy countries will pay much more for food in 2023, while many of those that live in poor countries will either deeply suffer or die. In fact, children are already dropping dead from starvation in large numbers in some parts of Africa, but most Americans haven't heard about this because they aren't showing it on the news. Of course, this isn't just a crisis for poor countries on the other side of the planet. Here in the U.S., the food that is not being grown in 2022 will cause immense economic pain in 2023. There are 17 Western states that collectively produce almost half of our food. And right now, those 17 states are being absolutely devastated by the worst multi-year mega drought in 1,200 years. The 17 states, including in north of Texas, up along the Central Plains to North Dakota and West California, are vital to the U.S. agriculture sector, supporting nearly half of the nation's 364 billion production by value. This includes 74% of beef cattle, responsible in total for 18% of U.S. agricultural production by value, 50% of dairy production, responsible in total for 11% of U.S. agricultural production by value, 80% of wheat production by value, and over 70% of vegetable, fruit, and tree nut production by value. The drought conditions, which have persisted well into 22, put production of these commodities at risk, along with the stability of farms, ranches, and local economies relying on crops, livestock, and downstream products and services for income. Okay. It says the American Farm Bureau Federation wanted to know how farmers in that half of the nation are faring during this drought, and so they conducted a survey. And what they discovered is extremely alarming. Here's one example. This year's drought conditions are taking a harder toll than last year's, as 37% of farmers said they are plowing through and killing existing crops that won't reach maturity because of dry conditions. Okay. It says, jumping down, and that's due to a drought. Farmers in Texas are being forced to sell off their cattle herds earlier than normal due to extreme drought, as water sources dry out and grass burns up. Farmers in the Lone Star State reported the largest reduction in herd size, down 50%, followed by New Mexico and Oregon at 43% and 41% respectively. You see? It says the cattle that are being slaughtered now are helping to stabilize short-term beef prices, but in the long-term run, we will see a much smaller cattle population and far higher beef prices. Okay. It says some beef producers in Oklahoma are warning that cheap ground beef could eventually top $50 per pound. Inflation-weary shoppers are pulling back on buying pricey steaks and switching to cheaper chicken at the grocery store. Okay, you got France's fruit and vegetable crops have fallen nearly 35% due to extreme drought. Drought is gripping the Horn of Africa, leaving some 26 million people facing food shortages in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia over the next 6 months. 7 million livestock animals have already been wiped out. Okay. And the UN is reporting that there could likely be multiple famines in 2023. Okay, let's get this. This is all scriptural. 2nd Ezra chapter 15. Actually, we're going to start at Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 4 and 16. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care. So the Lord is breaking that staff, and it's going to lead to food rationing, man, because there's not a lot of food available. Okay, they're going to start rationing out food, man. And they shall drink water by measurement and with astonishment. You see, Ezekiel chapter 14 and 13. Son of man, when the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, then will I stretch out my hand upon it, and will break the staff of the bread thereof. So the Lord, this land is sinning grievously against the Lord. Okay, rebellion, homosexuality, T-genderism. Okay, and will break the staff of the bread thereof, and will send famine upon it, and will cut off man and beast from it. So the Lord is gonna send that famine, man, and it's gonna clear out a lot of people. See, 2 Esdras 15 and 13. They that till the ground shall mourn, going back into those drought-like conditions. It says for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful consolation. And those that till the ground are these farmers, man. You see, they're in mourning right now because they're in straits, man. You see, they're facing a position of difficulty, man. Having to sell off their cattle. You see, and drought conditions, having to destroy crops. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. These famines are gonna lead to people invading one another's houses. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Okay. Man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Verse 19, man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. Okay, so houses are going to be spoiled, man. Okay, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. The lack of bread, that famine, man. People are going to be running in the houses, man. Okay, and for great tribulation, or great trouble. So hopefully this has been an edifying lesson. With that, I'm going to say shalom.